outrage here in Providenciales over this situation down there in Solkey, and land has been out of control for the last 3 years in the Turks and Caicos Islands, and it's a major issue right now with the way our land has been sold from under our feet, Crown land, and not just in Salt Key. I mean, we see it on a high level in North Caicos and
West Caicos
and Middle Caicos and West Caicos
and even Highland and South Caicos and Belzone
and Avery Key, and not only that, it's also posed an environmental nightmare for us here in the Turks and Caicos Islands, and I mean, when you look at Leeward going through, I mean, if you go up there, I mean, it is going to be, we're going to have an environmental disaster.
It's an unsustainable practice because, I mean, even today, so I'm not going to talk about my 2 children who were born in Grand Turk. Even today, I can't get a piece of land. Right? So imagine years from now, our children who are entitled, they just won't be able to. And I don't care what anyone says. Right now in Grand Turk, they're giving away swamp. And I want us to go back to Salkey because Salkey isn't getting the respect that it deserves.
Sure.
And they call it an island that time forgot. But it's an island that the PNP government has forgotten. Only they remember Salkey with their land. But last week, Salkey ferry between Grand Turk and Salkey went adrift. And on that boat, not a life vest could be found. And one of the dive operators had to come and tow that boat in. And what was even more alarming, I understand that because there's no frequent movement between or any established what you call a shipping service between them, on the same boat where people are traveling, they ship propane tanks and all these different things, and sometimes passengers on that boat sit on propane tanks. It is an island that the government has forgotten, and they deserve better.
And I mean, Charlene, even the government pays the people money for this service. Shouldn't the service be at a standard that is acceptable, since it's public funds that is paying for this operation?
Well, public funds pay the ministers, and they're not performing. I wouldn't even say at a standard that we should, at any kind of standard. So that's the order of the day.
Point well taken, Ms. Cartwright. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, you are watching Let's Talk Politics with Sean Malcolm. Tonight, my guest is Ms. Charlene Cartwright Robinson. She's a former member of Parliament here in the Turks and Caicos Islands, also an attorney at law. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight in the Turks and Caicos Islands, there's so many issues that are facing us throughout the length and breadth of these Turks and Caicos Islands. And Ms. Cartwright, one of those major issues that are facing us is the issue of fundamental rights. Freedom of speech in these Turks and Caicos Islands is something under the last, for the last 3 years has been thrown out the window. We have experienced so many infringement of our freedom and liberties in this Turks and Caicos Island. This very show that our viewers are watching on the internet, on the website at this moment, we were pushed to find a way to get our message out to the people of the Turks and Caicos Island, because you know, we came under some attacks from the powers that be to get us off the national airwaves. Here we are seeing issues about the leader of the opposition being denied access to the state radio. As a lawyer, and I know you specialize in this area of fundamental rights and freedom and democracy, and as a former member of Parliament in the Turks and Caicos Island, what is your views on these issues in terms of freedom of speech and fundamental rights here in the Turks and Caicos Islands?
I know that I'm not a specialist. Thank you for that, but I'm not. But I know that if you continue to stifle people in that particular freedom, you're going to be dealing with you're treading on dangerous grounds. Because when people feel like they can't speak out, you are going to reach to a point where they're going to speak out in another way. And this is how a lot of countries tread down the path of civil unrest. All right, we had situations, and you and I, we talked about this before, but we've had situations where RTC, sponsored by the people's money, not the government's money, the people's money, the leader of the opposition is denied an address. The leader of the opposition can't speak on the radio with the people paying for it. The leader of the opposition isn't just the leader of a party. He is Her Majesty's loyal opposition. He is entrenched in the constitution of the Turks and Caicos. He is vital to the governance of this country. He presents the checks and balances. And being able to communicate to the people and keep them aware and educate the public is something that the government doesn't want to be done. Whether it's the leader of the opposition or someone who just is anti-government or anti what they're doing. When I joined the Broadcasting Commission, which is responsible for RTC, the radio, there was a policy that was brought in place under the Honorable McAllister Henschel. He was then Minister of Communications. Now it's under the Premier.
Correct.
And there was a policy that was brought that no member of the opposition can be on the radio station. And I specifically asked, what if it's not in a political capacity? No member, they said. At that time, a former chief minister, former leader of our party, was on preaching. Fully paid up show. And they took him off. Because nobody in the opposition should even preach the gospel to the people of the Turks and Caicos.
Because
that is dangerous. That is dangerous. You have to allow people an opportunity. To this day, no talk shows. That very same leader who was taken off the radio, when he was Minister of Communications, allowed to show Voices, and all the supporters, they said, why you got people on Voices talking? Because half the time they're tearing down the government, tearing you down. But he appreciated freedom of speech.
Yes.
And he allowed Voices on the radio. He never said, I don't want to call in show, as this government is saying to this day under the Premier. He never said no one from the opposition can speak. Because he appreciated and respected the people enough to know that I understand that there'll be people who will be against me.
Correct.
But I'm doing a good job. And you should be able to get out there and say whatever, because the truth is, you have to respect the people's opinion enough to know that if they're saying something, they're getting it out, learn from what they're saying. That means I just don't respect the voice of the people.
But not only that, it seems to be this present government seems to have a strong stand of not allowing the people to hear the other side of the story. You know, there's always two sides of a story, and I think that is why there are so many things are happening in our country today, and our people are so lost because they're not being able to hear what is the true picture of or state of their nation at this point in time. But also, there's also another issue on the fundamental rights that is brewing in these Turks and Caicos Islands, and I'm sure it's going to hit the international scene, and I'm sure it's already in London. But the prison issue, there was a matter happened in the prison a few weeks ago, and it was printed in the Turks and Caicos News, and it speaks. I think it's another attack. It's another national attack on freedom of speech.